Ladies and gentlemen, what we witnessed last night on live television was nothing short of explosive, a moment that sent shockwaves through the political landscape and stirred emotions across the nation. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, known for her firebrand style and uncompromising truth-telling, took the national stage and dropped a bombshell that no one saw coming. She exposed intimate and previously unknown details about former First Lady Melania Trump, painting a picture that went far beyond the carefully curated image presented to the world during her time in the White House. But what followed, what turned an already dramatic situation into a full-blown media firestorm, was the unexpected reaction from Melania's own son, Barron Trump, who, at just 19 years old, picked up the phone and called the authorities. That's right, Barron Trump called the cops on Jasmine Crockett, igniting a constitutional and cultural debate the country hasn't seen since the height of the Trump presidency. Now let me walk you through this moment, not with the tone of a gossiper, but with the weight of someone who understands just how deep this runs. Jasmine Crockett, in her signature no-nonsense demeanor, was in the middle of an interview on a major network. She had been speaking passionately about the erosion of democratic norms, the weaponization of personal power, and the double standards that continue to plague the political class. Then, out of nowhere, she pivoted right into Melania Trump. Without warning, she began describing what she claimed were verified truths about Melania's past dealings, character contradictions, and personal choices that, in Crockett's view, reflected poorly on the integrity of the Trump legacy. These weren't vague allusions, they were direct, candid, scathing. The audience gasped, the anchors froze, social media exploded. But while Twitter frothed with hot takes, memes, and hashtags, something else was happening behind closed doors. Barron Trump, the youngest member of the Trump family, who has largely stayed out of the spotlight, was watching. Whether it was out of shock, protectiveness, or perhaps confusion about the legality or morality of what he was witnessing, he reportedly picked up his phone and dialed the police. According to initial reports, Barron stated that Jasmine Crockett was slandering and threatening his mother on live television, and that he feared for her safety and reputation. While many dismissed the call as the impulsive reaction of a loyal son, others saw something far more symbolic in his action, a line drawn between personal privacy and public accountability, between loyalty to family and the right to political speech. And this, my friends, is where the real story begins, because Barron Trump's call wasn't just a personal act. It was a national moment. It raised fundamental questions about the role of public figures in a democracy, the limits of political speech, and whether children of public officials, no matter how grown, have the right or responsibility to intervene when the truth becomes uncomfortable. Was Jasmine Crockett's speech courageous or cruel? Was Barron Trump standing up for his family or crossing a line by involving law enforcement over words? The country is now divided, and the debate is far from over. But let's zoom out. Let's not get lost in the drama of the moment without asking why it happened. Why did Jasmine Crockett feel compelled to go after Melania in such a public and aggressive way? Is it because, for too long, the former First Lady has remained untouched by the controversies swirling around her husband, or because there are truths that remain buried, protected by wealth, power, and silence? Jasmine Crockett didn't just spill gossip. She delivered a political strike meant to disrupt the narrative, to shake the Trump machine where it least expected it. And perhaps she succeeded. As for Barron Trump, his actions raise another dimension. He's not a child anymore. He's a young adult who grew up in the shadows of intense media scrutiny, whispers about his family, and the larger-than-life figure of his father. By calling the cops, he may have been trying to reclaim a sense of control in a world that never gave him a choice. He may have wanted to protect his mother, to draw a boundary that the political world has always ignored. Some see him as brave, others see him as overstepping, but either way he acted, and now the nation must react. The police, caught in the middle of this firestorm, issued a brief statement confirming the call was made and that they were assessing whether any laws were broken. Legal experts are already weighing in, with some saying Crockett was exercising her First Amendment rights, while others argue that if any of her claims were knowingly false, she could face defamation or libel suits. But let's be honest, this isn't just about law, it's about culture, it's about power, it's about who gets to speak and who gets to silence, who gets protected and who gets punished. So what happens next? Will Jasmine Crockett double down, revealing even more about Melania Trump? Will the Trump family respond formally? Will Barron become a more visible figure in American political life? Or will this all fade like so many social media controversies do? Loud, hot, and then gone. That remains to be seen, but make no mistake, what happened last night was a turning point. Not because of the facts revealed or the phone call made, but because it forced us all to reckon with the blurry lines we've drawn between politics and personhood, between family and office, between truth and taboo. Jasmine Crockett shattered the silence, Barron Trump pushed back. And in between, the rest of us are left wondering where the line really is, and who gets to draw it. Barron Trump calling the cops on Jasmine Crockett after she exposed Melania on live TV is more than just a dramatic moment in political theater. It's a symbol of generational tension, media sensationalism, and the clash between public accountability and private protection. The incident didn't just shake the news cycle, it unearthed deep-rooted questions about power, influence, and the human cost of living life under a microscope. To understand why this moment resonated so profoundly, we need to unpack what it means for a young man, largely silent and hidden from the headlines, to take such a public step in defense of his mother, and why Jasmine Crockett's choice to shine a spotlight on Melania triggered such a visceral, protective response. This isn't about who was right or wrong on the surface. It's about what happens when public critique touches the fragile line of family and identity in a world already fractured by politics. Barron Trump has always existed in a curious space within the American consciousness. Unlike other children of presidents who grew up with public roles or participated in national interviews, Barron has remained on the sidelines, rarely seen, almost never heard, carefully shielded by his mother and largely ignored by the media. And for good reason. Most agreed that children should be off limits, but that same unwritten rule has created a bubble around him, one that has both protected and isolated him. Now, at 19, Barron is no longer a child, no longer simply an extension of his parents' public persona. He is emerging as a person with agency, opinions, and, as we now see, an instinct to act when he feels something is wrong. His decision to call the police may seem extreme to some, but it also signals a transformation. He's stepping out of the shadows to confront a reality he can no longer avoid. What Jasmine Crockett did on live TV was bold, unfiltered, and undeniably provocative. She didn't merely hint at controversy. She named it, detailed it, and challenged the sanitized legacy that Melania Trump has tried to maintain. Whether or not her claims prove verifiable in court or by public opinion, her intention was clear: to hold accountable someone who, in her view, has benefited from public power without the scrutiny that typically comes with it. Crockett wasn't speaking as a tabloid columnist. She was speaking as an elected official, as someone who believes that truth, even when uncomfortable, is necessary for democracy to function. That kind of truth, telling, especially when it targets the powerful, has always come at a cost. What made this different was the target wasn't Donald Trump himself, but Melania, someone who has artfully sidestepped many of the criticisms hurled at her husband. For Barron, this wasn't just about politics, it was personal. Imagine watching your mother's past and character dissected in front of millions, knowing that the narrative being spun is entirely outside of your control. Imagine the feeling of helplessness, of seeing someone you love become a symbol in someone else's argument. Barron didn't have a press conference. He didn't make a statement on social media. He made a call, a desperate, perhaps naive, perhaps principled act of defiance. Whether he knew how the public would interpret it or not is secondary. What matters is that he felt something had crossed a line, and he responded in the only way he felt he could. But what is that line, and who decides when it's been crossed? We live in a time where public figures are expected to endure relentless scrutiny. Politicians and their families are often judged not just for what they do, but for what they represent. Jasmine Crockett saw Melania Trump as more than a former First Lady. She saw her as complicit in the Trump narrative, a narrative that, in Crockett's view, represents a danger to democracy, justice, and truth. Her speech was not just a personal attack. It was a political act intended to rip away the curtain and reveal what she believes is hypocrisy. But even righteous anger, when directed without restraint, can become collateral damage to those who never signed up for public life, people like Barron. And so we're left with a moment that doesn't offer easy answers. Was Crockett justified in her exposure if her aim was to reveal hidden truths? Was Barron justified in reacting as he did if his goal was simply to protect his mother from what he believed was slander? The truth might be that both were acting from conviction. One believed silence was complicity, the other believed silence was dignity. In that collision, we saw more than just a spectacle. We saw a generational clash. We saw the son of a controversial former president wrestling with his inheritance. We saw a bold congresswoman refusing to stay quiet in the face of what she views as carefully managed deception. And we, the public, saw ourselves, split, uncertain, glued to our screens, wondering where to stand. What happens next matters. If Crockett is sued or censured, it could redefine the boundaries of political speech. If Barron becomes more vocal, more engaged, it could signal a new era where children of political figures begin to speak out for themselves rather than being spoken for. Either way, the stakes are real, because in this story there are no pure heroes or villains, only people reacting to the complicated, often painful weight of public life. And in the end, maybe that's the lesson. Politics isn't just policy, it's personal, it's emotional, it's messy. What we saw wasn't just a clash of facts and opinions. It was a son defending his mother and a woman defending her truth. Both used their voice. And both, in doing so, reminded us that behind every headline, there are real people navigating a world that doesn't offer easy answers.